So here we have yet another doll movie, and we have yet another movie that its trailer just shows way too much. I don't think all the marketing for M3GAN was terrible. I actually really liked some of it. I liked that it was more mainstream. I like when we get a mainstream horror where it's not just horror fans that are jumping in being excited about a movie. I liked that it went viral on TikTok, and I loved watching everyone do the dance and cosplaying as M3GAN, and I thought the marketing was really clever with the NFL performance and having a bunch of actors hired to dress as M3GAN and perform. I thought that was really fun. But the damn trailers keep giving away too much information. Now, I was worried going into it because I saw this late. I had to wait for it to become video on demand. I could not go to the theater to see it. So I saw all the hype around this movie before ever seeing it, and I got really nervous because of what happened with *Malignant*. So James Wan also did *Malignant*. Now, he was the writer for M3GAN. He was not the director, but because of that situation, and everyone had something to say about the fact that I did not like *Malignant* or didn't get *Malignant*, I thought this was going to be another one of those situations where I just wouldn't get M3GAN. It's just, you know, not really my kind of movie to begin with, and I knew that because doll movies in general just aren't my thing. So I was nervous going in about how this review would pan out and how the reception would be to my review. Because, you know, I'm always going to be honest, but every time I'm honest on either side, I'm being told that I'm either paid off by the movie companies to say that it's a good movie, or that I'm just a hater and I really love to hate things. So either way, I get backlash. And especially when it's something as popular as M3GAN. So when Gemma suddenly becomes the caretaker of her orphaned 8-year-old niece, Katie, Gemma's unsure and unprepared to be a parent. Under intense pressure at work, Gemma decides to pair her M3GAN prototype with Katie in an attempt to resolve both problems, a decision that will have an unimaginable consequences. So this stars Allison Williams and Violet McGraw, which I thought were both fantastic in this, and it's directed by Gerard Johnstone, who is also known for Housebound, which is actually another kind of campy horror movie, and it's because of that movie that he was hired and sought out to direct this movie. So Jason Blum specifically wanted Gerard Johnstone because of how he works with horror and kind of comedy. Jason Blum says, "We needed someone who can do the thrills and set pieces, but who also has a cheeky approach," which I think is a great explanation for Housebound and also for M3GAN. I think there is great story going on, and also in a cheeky way. Like, it's fun. Like I said, the story is written by James Wan, which is why I was nervous about *Malignant*. I'm not a huge James Wan fan. Like, I like his original stuff, like, you know, old school stuff, but I just feel like modern James Wan just isn't my kind of stuff. James Wan said that he admired Johnstone's Housebound because of his ability to balance horror and comedy elements, creating a tone that is both frightening and humorous. This sensibility was essential for M3GAN. So they wanted to kind of recreate the tone and balance of comedy and horror in Housebound and put it into M3GAN, which I'm not gonna lie, I don't think was very successful. I think they focused a lot more on the comedy and M3GAN as a character than they did the horror elements, but we'll get to that. So let's talk about what I liked about this movie. This is not a *Malignant* situation. I don't hate this movie. I'm not going to rate it super high. Personally, it's not my movie, but I don't hate it. You can't deny that this movie is not a ton of fun to watch. Like, it is hilarious when M3GAN sings songs to Katie, and it's just funny. It's funny. I feel like the comedy was there and it was good, but this is a dark comedy. It's not really leaning heavily into the horror. So when the trailer went viral on TikTok and people were recreating the dance and dressing up as M3GAN, they actually decided to take that and rebrand this movie towards a younger audience. So they knew that they would market better to teenagers given the reception to the trailer. I mean, they made edits before the trailer was released, obviously, but originally this movie was meant to be an R rating, or have an R rating, an R-rated movie, and they actually shot this movie for that rating. And then when they're watching it back, they realized that it's very close to being able to pass for a PG-13 movie. So they decided to reshoot some scenes, cut out some of the brutality of it, I guess, or the stuff that made it R, and make it a PG-13 movie to cater to younger audiences. Now, I can appreciate this concept of like changing a movie direction and making it more appealing to a younger audience, because I want the younger audience to become horror fans as well. We need to breed new horror fans. Like, we want to keep the love for horror going. So naturally, we want to get some people to watch these kind of movies at a younger age. And there's definitely space in the horror genre for these kind of fun PG-13 movies where it's not super horrific. We don't need to be brutal and gory and nasty and horrific in every single horror movie. I mean, horror is a spectrum, so I feel like it's natural that we're gonna have movies like this that fall on the lighter side, and those are fun. Now, this movie is rated very high thus far, which I honestly was a little bit surprised by, not gonna lie. We'll get to criticisms later, and I will do spoilers in this video, just so you know, but I was really surprised by the rating being so high, although I shouldn't have been because of the reception that I saw and like all of the reception on social media that I was seeing, all the obsession of M3GAN. And what I find really interesting, this is the first Hollywood movie in 45 years to come out the first weekend of January to get a fresh Rotten Tomatoes score. In 45 years, the first one, in the first weekend of January. Normally January is like a graveyard for movies, specifically horror movies. Just don't do well in January. It's just not the season, I think, for like the general audience. So I'm very excited that a horror movie is the one to get a fresh rating in January, because I think just in general, horror is becoming way more mainstream and more loved and talked about. Although snubbed at the award shows constantly, I'm just, whatever. Like, they can just not give credit to the best actors in movies, in my opinion. It is what it is. The Academy just never wants to acknowledge horror. It's just not for everybody. But I do think it is becoming more accepted in for the general public. And it's because of movies like M3GAN, I think, that do that. So overall, what I liked about it, it was enjoyable. It's definitely rewatchable. I could see myself rewatching this, and the performances of the two leads were amazing. That is basically it. I don't feel like there's anything spectacular about this movie. So let's get into my criticisms about it. Again, no spoilers yet until later, but I do have some negative thoughts about this. Now, despite everything that I just said about the PG-13 rating and how I think it's cool that they're targeting a younger audience and not making it super brutal for no reason, I did personally want more out of it. I wanted a little bit more horror. I think they could have done a little bit more and still kept the PG-13 rating, because there wasn't a ton of gore or brutality or anything going on. My TV turned off. There we go. Gotta have the pretty lights in the background. Now, I think an R rating would have been really fun with this movie, and to make it more bloody, I think it still would have been viral and still would have had a great reception to it. I get the marketing of like making it more accessible. A lot of movies are doing that these days. And on one hand, I like that for reasons I stated before. But also, I do want horror in it. Like, I want it to feel like a horror movie, and this never really felt like one to me. And part of that is because of the trailers. Now, to me, this feels more like a toned-down Child's Play from, I forget what year it came out, 2018, 2019, something like that. The newer Child's Play movie where he's in, like, animatronic kind of thing, toy, not just a doll that's possessed by a serial killer. I feel like it's very similar to that, and I know that people are probably making that connection. And it's funny because this movie is actually inspired by the original Child's Play from 1988. A lot of the scenes are very reminiscent of the original movie. James Wan stated that pretty much the concept is about embracing technology too much and relying too much on it, and what happens when technology runs amok. It's a commentary on the world we live in, and it feels relevant. Now, I like this idea generally, but I don't feel like it's a super original one. I feel like many movies do this, and the new Child's Play movie is an example of that. So it doesn't feel like a very original concept. Nothing in this movie feels very original besides M3GAN the doll herself. I think M3GAN as a villain and as a character herself is amazing. I think she's iconic already. But beyond that, nothing in this movie really feels like anything new or anything original. And especially coming from the creator of Annabelle, I wanted, you know, it's another doll, I wanted something a little bit more original with it. Okay, now let's talk about spoilers for this movie. I just have some thoughts. They're all pretty much negative about the spoilers, or involving the spoilers, so if you haven't seen it yet, don't watch the rest of the video. First up, the cliche in the beginning of this movie of the parents dying in a car crash. And movies opening up in this scene. I'm kind of getting tired of this and like bored of it. You know, like I said, there's not a ton of original ideas in this, and so many movies open with a car accident, and then that's just like the basis of the story. It feels like lazy writing to me to continue to do that in 2023, so I just didn't really like that trope. There's very minimal scenes where M3GAN actually like hurts people, and then when we do get those scenes, there's nothing visual about it. We get like an ear stretching scene of the kid, right? And then he is hit by a car later. Now, that whole scene was annoying to me for so many reasons. It's goofy. It's a goofy scene for sure. But it's the fact that he dies by a car hitting him and not M3GAN actually doing anything to him. She's just chasing him through the woods and then he runs in front of a car. To me, that's boring when M3GAN is such an original villain. Also, all tension was erased from that scene because of the trailers. It pretty much showed that entire scene in the trailers. We saw her running on all fours, which I thought was really cool if I didn't see it 10 million times in the trailer and like all the marketing for it. I think stuff like that should have been saved for a surprise in the movie. I feel like trailers just in general aren't saving enough surprises for the viewer for the actual movie experience, and they're putting the exciting parts in the trailer to get people to go see it. And that almost feels a little desperate to me. Like the marketing of M3GAN feels a little bit desperate. I don't hate all of it, but the trailer's desperate because they're putting the whole movie in there, and you know, it shows the kid being hit by a car, like what you can assume is going to happen. And then also making it PG-13 for a younger audience. Sometimes it depends, that can be a hit or a miss for me. So the body count I think is 6 total, and some of them are in the same scene. So there's very minimal scenes where she's actually doing anything horrific, and some of them are just lame, just very lame. Obviously the iconic dance scene in the hallway with the paper cutter, I don't know. I felt like that death scene was just like a little bit lame. You see it happen on camera, but there's not anything going on. Like you wouldn't know that he was stabbed through the chest if you didn't see the aftermath of it, you know? I just think a lot of the suspense for this movie and the horror elements were taken away because of the marketing for it, and it did do it a disservice in my opinion. It made me enjoy the movie less because of all the marketing for it and the trailers that were very unavoidable. So just for me personally, this is my personal opinion. Obviously this is my review, so if you disagree, feel free to leave a comment. I wish that there was more brutality in this, or like creative deaths. I feel like they focused so much on the backstory of M3GAN and making her an original character and like the goofiness of it all, and then forgot a lot about the horror elements in this movie. And so I was just missing a lot of that. I wanted more. If it had an R rating, I think it would have been better. It's rare that I say that about a PG-13 movie. I appreciate that they made it accessible, not gonna lie. Like I said, I stand by everything I said before. I like that when they can involve younger audiences, but I think just personally it would have been better with more brutality, gore, things like that, kind of like Child's Play. Now I recognize that not everyone needs that. Not everyone needs that to have a great horror movie experience. This is definitely a movie that I would show my daughter at a young age because it's just fun. It's campy, it's goofy, it's fun, and it's like a great intro to kind of the horror genre, but it does lack a lot of horror elements in my opinion. There's nothing really scary or tense about this. That doesn't mean it's not a good movie by any means, but for me personally, to enjoy it as a horror movie, I wanted some of that. If I can enjoy it as a dark comedy, not need the horror elements to still enjoy it, I'll still rewatch this movie. It was fun. But I did want horror, if that is what it was at the end of the day. And the last critique I have is how terrible, this isn't even a spoiler, I shouldn't have put this in spoilers, but whatever, how terrible the side acting was. Like all the side characters acting, the line delivery, I was like, not a fan of the side characters and their performances at all. I loved the main two. Those were great, and M3GAN, of course. But beyond that, the acting to me was actually really noticeably bad and took me out of the movie a little bit when like her boss would deliver lines and things like that. So there's all my thoughts on M3GAN. I don't know if it's going to be as controversial as my thoughts on *Malignant* because it's so popular. But I would love to hear your opinions, whether you agree or disagree with me. Leave a comment down below. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.